Welcome to the QP Diaries podcast. This podcast is all about inspiring and empowering the next generation of QP professionals and future quality assurance leaders in the UK pharmaceutical industry. On every episode, I'll be speaking to QPs from across the industry, and our listeners will have the opportunity to hear their stories, their expertise, and we are going to be discussing topics to foster growth and learning to help you develop your career as a qualified person. If you're passionate about quality assurance and want to learn from some of the very best QPs and thought leaders from across the industry, then this is a podcast for you. I'm your host, Dal, founder of AssureBio, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. We are proud to have partnered with NSF as a sponsor of the QP Diaries podcast. Becoming a qualified person is a significant commitment of time, effort and resources, and the QPs trained by NSF are widely recognised as the very best in the industry, with no other training provider matching their experience or success rate. If you're interested in learning more about NSF's QP training course, you can find the link in the show notes. For now, we hope you enjoy this episode of the QP Diaries podcast. Hi Dave, welcome to the QP Diaries podcast.
Hi Dal, it's great to see you again.
Yeah, I know, we had a couple of weeks ago, we had a little preparation call, which was quite fun and entertaining.
Yeah, it was. Let's see if we can carry that on today. I have to say this isn't my natural environment doing podcasts, but I've watched some of the others in the series and they're quite engaging actually. It's great to see people's different journeys to becoming a QP. It's really helpful to share this information.
Brilliant, Dave. Yeah, well, thank you for being a part of it. And I'm looking forward to the conversation so you can entertain our audience today. But of course, we are here for a reason and we want to hear your story to becoming a QP. And of course, then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into, your career, the different companies you've worked for, your best practices and advice to anyone who's going on the journey or whoever is a QP right now. Plus some of the challenges that QPs face, of course, as well. But let's get into it, Dave. So to kick us off, can you sort of roll back the years and tell us about your journey to becoming a QP?
Oh gosh, that takes me back a bit. So I guess going back to the very beginning, I'm an analytical chemist. So I'm a chemist by qualification, if you like. Graduated from Loughborough University back in '86. And I guess like a lot of people at that time, I didn't really know what career path to take. And ironically, I had worked in a part-time job as a cleaner at Beecham Pharmaceuticals in Worthing. So okay. I kind of always use this as I'm working my way up the pharmaceutical sort of structure. And so I applied to the site. They didn't have a job, but they passed me over to the Crawley site where they had a role for a graduate analytical chemist. So I took on the role there and spent a couple of years working in analytical development. And I had a brilliant teacher in Angela Rees, gave me some really good background analytical skills. But that group started out with 3 of us and over the coming years grew very rapidly to 16 people. So the site changed significantly in the Beecham network from being a sort of backwater plant to being designated the market entry plant for small molecule new chemical entities. So we took on 14, 15 graduates. I became head of analytical development, and that gave me a great opportunity to transfer products from research and development into production, into commercial production and the first 50 market launches. And it was part of that process and seeing people at the facility like Mick Rowe and Mike Geraghty, who are QPs, where I thought, I fancy that as a career path because I didn't want to stay in analytical chemistry all my life. And the Beecham, or became SB, gave me the opportunity to study the PG DIPS course at Brighton. So I spent a couple of years on that course and finished that in 95 and became a QP, or eligible to become a QP, in 96. Okay. The irony is I didn't really become an active QP for SB or GSK as they've become. That happened slightly later when I moved to 7Cs as head of quality. And as part of that move, they put me onto the license, and then I became the main certifying QP for that organisation. So
Okay.
that's kind of the background. And interestingly, like a lot of people, I'd never heard of a QP when I got into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know what one did. And it's a ridiculous title when you try to explain it to people. I'm a qualified person. Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's it exactly. Yeah, I mean, I was having that conversation early this morning with my colleagues, trying to explain. Is there a background to the QP name? But yeah, it's just a qualified person. Okay, yeah. So you qualified. You were eligible in 1996.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't actually go into a releasing role until you were a head of quality. Was it 7Cs you mentioned?
That's right. Yes. Yeah, so that's when I really sort of cut my teeth, if you like.
Okay.
So as part of my move to 7Cs, were part of eMerck. They wanted somebody to head up the quality unit who could act as a QP, but bring a little bit of sort of big pharma requirements into what was essentially a fast-moving consumer goods site.
Yeah.
So about 80% of the products that we made were food supplements, and the remainder were medicines, but interesting medicines.
Yeah.
So we had marine oils, so fish oils, cod liver oils, herbal products as part of the Hofels range, and homeopathic products, as well as standard traditional medicines. So that gave me a real opportunity to figure out, how do I apply the sort of blue chip pharmaceutical? Yeah, this is how you set your standards. This is how the information you need to assure yourself that a batch is okay. And then apply that into a fast moving consumer goods, but also do it on a risk-based approach. So how do you release foods versus how do you release medicines and cosmetics?
Mm-hmm.
Also gave me, and I still carry that today, some interesting background knowledge on things like herbals, which are quite niche. So yeah, my role there was head of QA, so looking after QA, QC, and also acting as certifying the majority of the batches from that site.
Okay, yeah, so you were the main QP as well
Mm-hmm.
then, in terms of batch certification. I should say only 20% though of the
Yeah,
portfolio required medicinal products.
that's right. Yes, so quite a number of batches per day used to be certified out of the facility,
Yeah.
and with that, a few interesting challenges. And the one great thing that 7Cs gave me was it was a small site, and it gave me access to all the relevant areas on the site. So I spent a lot of time in manufacturing, in packaging, technical services, but also in sales and marketing. So areas that I'd never normally get involved in, and even going out selling the products directly to consumers, which
Yeah,
was takes you out of your comfort zone a bit.
I can imagine. Yeah, how did you balance it all then, being a head of quality and a QP, and as you say, all the other responsibilities on top of that?
I found it quite a natural way of balancing it. I mean, being head of quality gave me input and responsibility for a lot of the systems on site and a lot of the decisions on site, because I was part of the management team. And what one example there is, before I started with the organisation, they warned me or identified that they had problems with the water system. It was an old water system. They were getting some odd results from it, and it would need replacing. And shortly after I joined, we had an MHRA inspection. And not surprisingly, because I'd also spotted this, we got a critical observation for it. So it's fantastic when you walk into an organisation and get a critical observation and then have to go down to Market Towers to explain why you're in this situation and what your remediation is. But I looked at that as a great learning opportunity because I was pre-warned about it. And it was just an example of how working in sort of QA and as a QP, I could influence the direction the site was then heading in. And as part of that, justify getting in a good, robust water system that was fit for purpose for the volume of water we needed. We made a lot of water-based products, and it was going to last us, 10, 20 years. And I saw that then as part of my role in any organisation I've been in, has been part of that strategy moving forwards. How do we keep ourselves safe kind of people look at it, how do we keep ourselves safe for the regulators? But actually, I'm thinking, how do we make sure we don't impact the patient?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you weren't phased by walking into that, as you say. You already were pre-warned, where most people will be immediately put off by the situation.
No, because I assessed it that they've been open with me, they've been honest with me. They put that out there that there was an issue, and then I became part of helping with the solution at moving that forwards.
Okay, all right. And then from there, so it was you obviously started at GSK, then it was Seven Seas, and then was it Catalent was next? Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. So spent 10 years with each of those first two organisations, moved on to Catalent, where I went in as quality director at the facility at Corby. Really interesting move because it was a CMO, a packaging facility, and all they did was packaging. Mm-hmm. And I thought, how on earth can packaging keep me interested for, a period of time? I had a really interesting series of interviews with Steve Facer and Lynn Hay, who were the site general manager and head of HR. They were great people, really enthusiastic people. And they drew me into the organisation, and I am so pleased I went there because it was a fantastic facility with some wonderful people working there. And you would not believe how challenging packaging is, how many ways it can go wrong. And particularly when you're working as a CMO. So in my previous roles, as I mentioned, working with what is now GSK, we were very much owners of our own products and our own destiny. Yeah. Seven Seas, different, fast-moving consumer goods. Working with a CMO gives you a completely different view of things. So you are working with organizations, small and large, who have different requirements they're trying to place on you, and you're trying to turn those requirements into packed product going to the market in a safe, efficacious pack for the patient. Some great challenges.
Yeah, so that gave you a different perspective then as a quality leader going from a big pharma to FMCG and then to a CMO. Essentially, you're working for the clients. Were you also a QP? Were you also acting as a QP, or was it just purely at that point?
Yeah, very much so. So my role was as head of quality, the quality director, and I always believe that from my own personal point of view, if I'm working at a facility and I'm eligible to be a QP and I'm in a senior role, then I think the Americans call it, you need to have skin in the game. Yeah. So I always put myself forward on any licenses and acted in that QP role and would carry out batch certification. But also, if there was any concerns, any major decisions that need making, I wanted to be part of that process. Right. Not because trying to interfere per se. We had other QPs who are great QPs who are working there, but it's more to show the support and you're on the side of the QPs. And it was my role to make sure that the right environment for the QPs to operate. So as part of the senior leadership team at the site, I work with the senior leaders from an education point of view, for making sure our strategy picked up the right sides of quality to move the business forward.
Yeah, so although you're on the senior leadership team then as that quality head or director, you were still fully immersed within the group of QPs that you had.
Absolutely, yes, and there to try and support the QPs in their day-to-day roles. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've always tried to have with working personally as a QP, or one of the big recommendations I'd give QPs, is try not to stay too long working isolated in your office reviewing documents. So one of the things I did a lot at Catalent is get out and about. Okay. Talk to people in purchasing, in warehousing, in the manufacturing, the packaging areas, in the support areas, to understand your processes, your systems, but actually to get to know people and understand their challenges and problems. And can you be part of the solution then?
Yeah, so I suppose in light of then your different companies and learnings over the years as a quality leader in QP, then what are the skills or attributes that you believe that someone aspiring to excel as a QP that they should have? I mean, you touched upon one there.
Yeah, and it's a great question, that, because I think it can be a little bit different for different people sometimes. But I think some of the general ones, one of the things I learned fairly early on is you will never know everything yourself. And don't fool yourself into thinking you will know everything. So rely upon your subject matter experts, your technical experts. So to kind of go along with that, make sure you do surround yourself with good quality professional people who you trust and genuinely can trust. There's no problem in challenging people. I'd expect myself to be challenged, but yeah, work as part of that broader team and rely upon those SMEs. Keep an open mind. Mm-hmm. We can all be too quick sometimes to jump to conclusions, and you may not have all the information. And actually, with that, never shy away from admitting you're wrong, because we all make decisions at a time with the information we have available, and that's a sound decision based upon what we have. But something can change, which then alters your view of that situation. So, yeah, be curious.
Yeah,
curiosity is great. Inquisitive. Some people get fed up of asking questions or being asked questions. And I think some good attributes are to have some good, strong relationships. Doesn't always mean say you have to really like all the people you work with all the time, but make sure you have those good professional working relationships with them, where you can have those interactions and you're approachable. So if people have issues, they're not concerned about coming to you with them and you're going to shout at them or berate them for doing something wrong. Yeah. A classic example of that was one day one of my QPs came to me and said, "Dave, I don't know why I've done this, but I've certified a batch and released it and it was the wrong batch." And I just laughed at him and said, "Well, why have you done that?" Yeah, some people would sort of fly off the handle and, "What have you done that for?" Yeah. And, we just had a good laugh about it. Nobody felt under pressure. It's like, okay, that's gone wrong. What do we now need to do to mitigate that? And actually, why did it happen? Can we improve our systems so that doesn't go wrong again?
Yeah, okay. We're taking a moment to share a message from Catherine Kay, who is the Executive Director at our sponsor, NSF, where she highlights the benefits of their training program for trainee QPs.
Our trainers for our courses are experts. They're experts from industry, have had many years' experience and bring a wealth of knowledge to our training courses. We also provide Viva preparation sessions for them every month where they can practice answering questions in a group scenario. NSF have a long-standing partnership with the University of Strathclyde, so not only do our courses meet the requirements of the QP study guide, but they're also taught at a master's level. So that means that people can go on to and acquire a postgraduate certificate, diploma or even master's with the University of Strathclyde. Then you can go to our webpage, so nsf.org, and we have a whole page there set to our qualified person training, so you can read more there.
Yeah, and is that related to the point you made about don't act in isolation then, as a QP? Don't just sit in your office and panic, go and speak to people.
Yeah, and I think because of my personality and character, you'll be shocked by this though, I'm an extrovert. Okay. So I remember when I was at Catalent at one of the quality leadership meetings, and we had a personality profile of quality leaders. And out of about 50 leaders, 46 of them were sat in one box from a personality point of view. Mm-hmm. And there was kind of 3 of us diagonally opposite them. And I think it's one of the challenges of people who work within the quality environment are often good with detail, very precise with what they're doing. There's nothing wrong with that at all. We need people around who are like that all the time. A lot of people are introverted, and it's not their natural preference to go out and talk to people, particularly if you don't know them. It takes you way out of your comfort zone. And the one piece of advice I'll say there is, yeah, it is uncomfortable. Just go out and talk to people, and you'll soon build up a rapport, a relationship, and that will really, really help you in your quest to discuss issues, find out problems, find out areas for improvement in a facility.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you relate that back to any sort of key milestones in your career which shaped you as a person, as a quality leader, as a QP, to where you are right now and the advice that you're providing?
Oh, some critical milestones. That's a good one. I think a few things that shaped me. When I was at GSK, we had a lot of young people working in the organisation who, on paper, you think, they're not very experienced. And the site we're working at were very good at looking at talent and putting them into positions and supporting them where they felt they would do well and flourish. And I think that gave me a strong message that, you see it sometimes, with professional footballers. Well, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And it's then a matter of supporting people in those roles. So that shaped me from the point of view of, working with people in organisations, and particularly the young talent coming through organisations, and aspiring QPs are very much part of that pool, is how can you help them move on to the next level, give them the responsibility, give people authority, but it's so important to support them. I guess one thing that really did shape me was a major fire we had at the Corby facility, where we lost the warehouse and damaged part of the surrounding areas. And as a business, we had to try and recover from that. And being part of the leadership team, it's, how do you respond in that situation? So that I learned a lot from that process. And going back to the previous point, we created factories within factories. So we moved our equipment, decontaminated it, moved our people out to Schorndorf in Germany, 2 parts of the Swindon site, and Bolton. So we moved the packaging operators, we moved the technical engineering support as well as the quality team. And we basically, as a leadership team, said, here's the budget, you've got the authority. If you have any issues, come back to us and we'll support you, and just go out and do what you feel is right. And it's amazing what people can do. It's amazing what a great job they did. So I think that shaped me quite a lot. I think one other area which has probably shaped me is also my involvement with the pharmaceutical quality group.
Okay.
And that's part of, I've been with it, working on the committee for many, many years, and I'm currently the chair of the PQG, which I'll be handing over in May of this year and stepping down to vice chair. But through that journey, what I've always been trying to do is to help trainee QPs and help QPs in the industry who maybe not have as big a support network as I've always been lucky enough to have in the large companies. So it's helping people through the QP learning journey, as well as people in roles where they have challenges and issues. So yeah, there's some areas that have shaped me. Yeah. And I think one of the best pieces of advice I was given as a QP was by a general manager at Catalent called Steve Facer. And he always used to say to me, Dave, whenever we've got a crisis, you're just so calm, so measured, so consistent. He said, if you ever want to get something done and you're struggling, he said, occasionally just absolutely lose it in a meeting. He said, throw a few things down and have a bit of a shouting session. And if you want, just storm out. And he said, once people, get to know you and are comfortable with you, they completely can trust you by the way you behave. He said, if you show that much emotion, they'll think, goodness gracious, that must be really, really important. We better do something about this.
Yeah.
And it's just an interesting piece of advice, and it worked. And I actually tried it a couple of times with some coaching from Steve, and it really did get the attention, because sometimes people do that as a default in the way they behave, so everybody ignores it.
Yeah.
And where they see somebody in a controlled way being passionate about something, then they think, yeah, this really is important. This is really something we've got to take on board. So I thought that was some great advice that shaped me and got me to a bit of self reflection on how you behave in organisations.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I've never heard that before, because typically you say remain balanced, especially remain calm and collected in situations, and be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
But based on that advice, so actually maybe throw a curveball here and there.
And it was just showing you care.
Yeah. Got it. All right, excellent. And you touched upon obviously your support for trainee QPs.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously within NSF now, you're still training, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of my favourite parts. So from my background of the areas I've worked in, I guess some of the areas where I get involved is I still have a nerdy interest in analysis and testing.
Mm-hmm.
So I head up that particular QP course within NSF. Packaging. I still get really excited about packaging and seeing packaging lines and pack construction. I've normally got some packs lying around on my desk just to play with. So yes, I train on the packaging course and active substances.
Okay.
So through my time at predominantly Seven Seas and having what was a refinery at the time of ICHQ7 coming in, we went through the journey with the MHRA at the time of figuring out how they would regulate a natural product facility, which is taking 1,000 ton of crude cod liver oil and refining it down into 20-ton batches and having that filled into bottles and capsules. So I spent some good time with the MHRA and internally figuring out how does GMP apply to those sorts of processes. So I bring a lot of that into the active substance course as well. And of course, across all three of those areas, some great stories of how I've messed it up in the past.
Right. So I'm sure you share then your experiences and lessons that you've learned over the years. But based on obviously where you are now in your career, what do you believe are the most pressing challenges then for QPs who are in particular a batch certification role?
Yeah, in the pressing challenges, I guess it's just a pressing challenge in modern society is time.
Okay.
So all of us have too much to do and too little time to do it in. And one way I think we can help ourselves as QPs is figure out from a quality risk management point of view, what is it we need to be spending our time doing? And batch review is a great example of that. So as a QP, am I going to review every page of every batch document? And if so, what value is that going to add into that review process? Or do I have good quality people in front of me doing that review for me and highlighting areas that I need to focus my attention on? And that may change depending whether it's a solid dose or whether it's a aseptically prepared product for an ATMP. But it's using risk to make sure we're getting good value for money and where we're focusing our time. Because all the time we're sat there going through that certification process and reviewing documentation and investigations, we're not doing the other part of the role, which is making sure our systems are robust and fit for purpose and adequate, and our people are well educated and know what the requirements are. And just getting out and doing some of the things I mentioned earlier, the Gemba walks around the facility and engaging in people, talking to our CMOs who may be providing product to us. So I think those are some of the big challenges. Complex supply chains. Everybody you speak to with complex supply chains has challenges, and particularly on the handovers and different quality standards between organisations and what's appropriate, and just the fast-moving pace. That's it's not a criticism; it's just a challenge. It's nice to be fast-moving, but it is a challenge for the certifying QP.
Yeah, so a lot around obviously the pace and then time. So, I mean, any advice on productivity that maybe you supply to your trainees when you are leading your courses?
Oh, that's a good question, because this can be very, very personal to people.
Okay, yeah.
Because you've got to have trust, and if you haven't got trust, it comes back to that quality risk management piece.
Okay.
If you haven't got trust in what's around you, you then take it on board yourself to then, I am going to check everything.
Right.
And we are never going to have 100% perfect batch, and particularly with the paperwork associated with a batch. So it's then looking at, well, what does that mean to the patient, and what does that really mean to compliance? And how much of our time are we going to spend on really minor issues, where it's the bigger issues we should be looking at? So advice there is, the more critical issues, spend longer not only understanding them, but putting fail-safes in to mitigate them. And pick and choose your battles on that one. So if you're constantly getting, and I've done this before, my team has done this before, if you're constantly getting minor issues in documents, almost don't hold up every single batch and have a fight every time, which is then creating lots of issue. Monitor it, trend it, and then work with people in that supply chain to figure out, how do we improve this situation? But if you stop every batch going out of the door, then it's going to create a lot of other noise that you've then got to deal with, particularly if there's very little risk to the patient or compliance to that batch. Mm-hmm. So yeah, pick and choose your battles.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good answer to the question, and I think it goes back to your original point that you mentioned earlier in terms of like the relationship building with people within the team, but not just in your team, within different departments throughout your career or tenure within that company.
It definitely does, because one of the things you learn from that is how different people operate, and how to then approach different people depending upon their own personality type, and I guess your past experience of working with them, and particularly where you've got some difficult discussions to have. How are you going to manage that? Because ultimately you both want the same thing. Everybody goes to work wanting a nice, easy day, don't they? We don't want issues. We don't want challenges. We don't want to be firefighting all the time. So how do we work together to reduce some of that background noise, which is getting in the way of us all doing a good job?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that the trust is critical there, right? It is. And yeah, I mean, even in my profession, and we work remotely, but of course, yeah, I can't be doing everything, can't be firefighting every day. You want an easy day, of course, but yeah, you have your colleagues, your team, and the trust element around that. So
yeah, and you can't be doing everybody else's job and taking it all on board yourself, because then you're going to get completely overloaded.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Dave, and I do have one more question for you, and
go on.
It is one just for our sort of trainees who are either aspiring or going through the application process right now. So, if you could go back and give yourself advice on your journey to becoming a QP, or even earlier in your career as a QP at the start of your career, what would that be?
Oh, good advice. I actually think some of the best advice is take opportunities that are offered to you. So if you get given opportunities which take you way out of your comfort zone, so for example, if you're working in quality and your company says to you, would you like a 3-month secondment in manufacturing? And you think, oh, I'm not sure about working in a production environment. I would say jump at the chance and take it, particularly if it's a secondment, because it's a short fixed term, and you may find you absolutely love that environment. Even if you don't love it, you will learn so much from it that you can then take on into your own personal growth. So that can go for, small things on a day-to-day basis. Throw yourself into opportunities as they arise, particularly as a trainee. I always say to trainees, the time you learn the most is when things go wrong. When things are going well, you can talk to people, but it's when you get a big deviation, you get a recall, you get something go wrong with a plant, you get your water system suddenly has a major issue with it. It's like, oh, great opportunity as a trainee QP to learn this is, and see if you can get yourself in on the team who are investigating or mitigating the issue, and you will learn so much from it. And as part of that, ask lots of questions. Talk to all the subject matter experts. Talk to the water system supplier. It's free education.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best bit of advice, and just keep doing that through your career.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. So earlier on in your career, if the opportunity is presented to yourself as to go on a secondment, for example, then, as you say, take it. Why not? I suppose what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Just be brave. I mean, when I look at all my job moves, none of them were really planned in advance. So some people plan their career out on how you're going to progress and have quite a detailed plan. And I kind of went with the flow and looked at what was right for me and my family at the time, but also what opportunities had come up. And even, within jobs, within organisations, what opportunities were arising. So, occasionally project teams. I was working at Catalent, and we had an issue with implementation of an ERP system, which was a global system. And it was, would you like to go out and oversee the validation of that system? And it's like, no, not really. It's CSV. But actually, what a great chance to learn such a complex business system and have all the technical experts in-house as well as all the vendors together and learn from them.
Yeah.
So, it was a great 4-month project. Did help it was in St. Petersburg in Florida. But, but it's just an example of where you can throw yourself into a project and add value, but also learn a lot from it.
Yeah. So being open-minded then.
Very much so, yeah.
The message there, and because I know there's some people can be fairly rigid in their careers and the jobs, and maybe not look outside of that. But as you say, you have to learn, you have to keep developing, and if opportunities are there, then be open-minded and take them.
And types of organisations you're working with. You may suddenly get an offer of working with an ATMP organisation. You think, what do I know about ATMPs? What a great chance to learn.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, brilliant, Dave. Yeah, no, thank you so much. That was really good. It was interesting to hear your story from the very early days as a cleaner to where you are now. And will you be at any the upcoming conferences? I know there's like Making Pharma next month. Are you going to be there?
Yes, myself and Kay will be on the stand at Making Pharma. So, looking forward to that. It's also a great chance to network. And for anybody listening in, it is one of the best free events of the year for CPD, and seeing some real industry experts presenting on a great range of topics across GDP and GMP.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I'll be there as well, Dave. So we'll catch up in person then.
Fantastic.
But for now, Dave, thank you so much for being a guest on the Keep Your Diaries podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
It's been fantastic chatting with you again, and good luck to everybody who's listened through to the end.
Cheers, Dave. All right, I'll leave you to you, Dave. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
A huge thank you to our special guest and to our listeners for tuning into the Keep Your Diaries podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show. As the founder of AssureBio, we created the podcast to support our wider quality assurance community, which aligns to our dedicated offering as a recruitment agency to the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industry across the UK. We have over 10 years of experience exclusively focused on recruiting senior quality assurance leaders and QPs. If you want to learn more about AssureBio's recruitment services, or if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, and please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.